welcome back to I Refuse Podcast. This is season one, episode two. I am Mr. Fox. Before we begin, let's remember to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all the latest content and all the perspectives that we share on this podcast. This particular podcast will be dedicated to the crabs in a barrel mentality. I personally have that has always been a personal, a running theme in my life where people often turn against each other when they're in the same space over time, whether it's socially, professionally, on some level, people just feel the need to be competitive or backstab or play some kind of game within the workplace or play some kind of mental game in like the love life, the dating scene, what have you. And this crossed my mind today as to this particular subject. When did we all just get to that point where whether we're fighting over a love interest, trying to one up each other in the professional world for promotions, things of that nature, people, it's great to be competitive. It's a great feeling to accomplish and succeed in life. However, you'd have to be able to sleep at night. You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror every morning and smile or be confident that you made the right choice. And from my perspective, years and years of living on this earth, I've always been very cognizant and conscious. First, I know that what I see before me, I don't often comment on. Um, I readily accept a person the way that they are, good, bad, or otherwise. And I just keep it pushing, but I still keep mental notes. I know many, many years ago, I was starting a new job that I applied for. And, the first impression I get, I think we all share when we come into a new environment, a new office, we're around new people, we're like, oh, great, this will be a good fit. People will be welcoming, people will be accepting, all is well in the kingdom, right? Fast forward about a few weeks into the new position, the tone and the air started to change when people were around me. Um, it could have been fear, could have been insecurity, who knows? But the people within this particular office were little standoffish, didn't really engage that often, and it was particularly weird for me because I'm the new guy. I mean, I'm in a position to help and cultivate and push people along professionally. And I would think in my mind and in my heart and spirit that that's good. That's not a problem. People would be receptive to that. But again, or for the first time, there is always this hierarchy in any office environment or any professional environment where people that make the most money just have this air of importance or this air um, that they are better than, and it comes across in conversations where you could be a subordinate. You can. It's just a different tone. There's a condescending tone in a conversation between a higher paying person to a subordinate, which is different than when the two parties are equals. Um, I know for me, a running theme in my life, dating back to when probably my second job, I would say my first major career as an adult. You had two ranked classes in this environment. One is, more leadership lane, and the other is more a slow, steady um, ascension into something of importance. But in this particular environment over here, from the outside and even on the inside, the the left lane, the leadership, it's of more importance historically and socially. Um, and with that, not only comes responsibility, but this certain air. Um, and it was more so in the mechanical field, the engineering field. They weren't necessarily the ones that were doing the flights and things of that nature, but they could be the ones working on the planes. And they just thought that they were tough shit. Um, Whereas people kind of look down on other people in the other lane who are so-called quote unquote, I put this in air quotes, pencil pushers. And there's a theme of division there, and I don't understand why, when we're in the same pot, we are bringing each other down, being divisive, looking down on one another. If we're all on the same mission, why does it have to be this way? Um, Circling back to the first example I was giving in a job many years ago, there have been times I've had more than one job um, while going to two different schools and learning my way through a different city from where I'm from. Um, Started this job first couple of weeks. People started to engage less and less and complain more and more behind my back to, I guess, their respective leadership. Um, at some point, um, I was pulled aside in different private conversations. Keep backing away from the mic. Private conversations. One was more um, interpersonal related, which is fine, even though the tone from this person, again, was one of arrogance and condescending, even though we were around the same age. Um, However, the second or third private conversation that I was pulled into, um, the woman looked like me. Um, we kind of have some parallels personally. Both served in the armed forces, but she was considerably more or less older than me. So I went into the conversation thinking, oh, great, I'm going to have another mentor in my career, somebody to kind of aspire to, not necessarily career wise, because, I know my strengths and my weaknesses, but somebody that could bestow upon me such wisdom for the career, for a path. Even though I'm a fully actualized, fully realized individual, I just, I'm always open to different perspectives. However, the conversation between me and this person started to go in a very interesting, slightly uncomfortable direction where she brought race into it. Now, at the time, the office was, or the environment was predominantly white, and there were probably less than 7 black people, including myself, in this office. Um, and again, like a running theme in these office environments is that most of them are predominantly white, with a few minorities sprinkled throughout. Um, so there's always been this kind of unspoken um, conversation or unspoken, um, I don't know, energy where um, we people were keeping numbers on us, like kind of we were. a friend of mine, a very good dear friend of mine, she would jokingly say to a few of us when we were in a gaggle or, in close quarters. I say gaggle, it's the same thing. Um, where if a white person or another non-black person of considerable rank peeked in the office where we were or walked by, she would jokingly say, they're probably counting the number of black people that are in this office and they're probably going to report us. Now, my 21 year old mind, I thought it was pretty funny. But circling back to this example, it really shook me. Um, she, it started off with curiosity as to what was, I guess, incorrect about me or what was the issue. She had been given some feedback from some of the people in her office that I was that I seemed irritated or disengaged or aloof. Um, I never understood why people take on emotional burden of something of what they perceive that has nothing to do with them. In this world, in this planet, in this life, not everything is about. It's not going to be about you. People come to work, do their 8 to 5, their 8 to 4:30, and they do their commitment to the mission or the job or what have you, and they keep it pushing to their private life. There are so many outside variables that we have to remember in a person's life that you will not be privy to, um, that you may not be privy to. I, on the other hand, I decide to be private and only divulge personal information or personal struggles with people that care, that genuinely are concerned about my well being, that are supportive in my journey and my path to a greater self. Um, this particular person, I wasn't sure at the time what her intent was or who she was as a person. Like I said, it was like week 3 into this new position. At any rate, she started the conversation there, which, I mean, any regular person would be defensive. And then she went into a direction regarding race. Oh, well, there aren't that many of us in the office, and the performance of one reflects on another, and all this other stuff. And, I took it in, I processed it, I digested it, kind of ate on it a little bit. Um, and I was like, what does this have to do with the other thing? What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Um, I let her go on and go on and go on. One thing that people don't realize is that if I'm ever confronted with adversity or confronted with a contrary position or somebody that has an opinion, I let them have the floor. It's very respectable, very open to what they have to say, but I'm also taking notes as to the person that they're showing me to be. And that's exactly what I was doing in that situation. Never mind the fact that, like, this person was not in my chain of command. I did not have to report to this person. So I took that piece of situation, whatever you call it, with a grain of salt, and I kept pushing. But my takeaway from that, and as it ties into this episode, is that she probably had good intentions. However, started a conversation in an offensive position and then going straight to the race thing. It was more like she was kind of turning a little bit away. I, for one, never understand why we must always put race into just about every situation that is not it's not even relevant. Um, Especially within the workplace, that was a little uncomfortable for me. And I wasn't sure how to receive whatever it was that she was trying to say. Um, I never really understand why we have to like I said, pull each other down. Especially in a structure where the promotions and the opportunities are fluctuate. The promotions are to a set scale. Um, you know exactly what the scale of a particular position is and the full, I guess, potential of that position. So it's not like they're they're able to hand you promotions hand over fist. Like, oh, you did really great this quarter. I'm gonna give you 25, 30,000 more to your pay. No, that's not how it always works. So why the conversation was necessary, I'm not entirely sure because we should be allies. We should all be allies to each other. And I don't really know, really, the remaining time that I was there, who she is as a person. Like, people, for whatever reason, feel the need to just say what they want to say what they want to say, have to say, not really conscious as to the outcome or what kind of damage it does to a person. I mean, not to me. I mean, the person that's talking to you, Mr. Fox, is just that is someone that has come up, always come up in an environment as young, as far back as I can remember, where someone always had an opinion. The room can be completely silent, and somebody just comes out and has something to say about every little thing, about this and that. Um, so for me, I've developed a very thick skin. I've been able to navigate through this kind of thing, but I've often wondered why, when we're in the same kind of marginalized community, we are already second class citizens to the world wide. And here we are just turning on each other and tearing each other down and taking conversations and moments and experiences um, into a whole another direction where we're just one person's defensive, one person's offended, and nobody really walks away from the conversation a better person. I'm pretty sure in her mind she thought that she was doing me a great service. Um, she didn't know me from a can of paint, and I didn't know her too well, or really at all. Our interaction, even since then, has been in passing. Um, but what I gather from her, just little bits and pieces. I can gather that her style of leadership and her style of management was one that was dedicated to perfection. There's no air for mistakes. It must be perfect. It must be this particular way for for me being her, which is it's cute for yang 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 around the house, but we often, from my perspective, we often limit each other by placing that low ceiling. Um, Everybody, for me, I know that I grow from my mistakes, and I have gotten tighter professionally, more focused, and even more disciplined in my approach in life. Um, and the thoughts and the feelings and the intake that I've taken from every experience with or interaction with a person higher up in leadership or a person in a position to lead the ship and steer it in whatever direction is that it's been very educational and informative. I haven't seen this person in a while, and I hope she's doing well and everything. And then, like personally, the same theme, marginalized group of people, marginalized community, a community that's looked down upon from the outside, from politics to religion to heteronormative communities, heteros in general, Bible thumpers. We, as gay people, bi people, we are marginalized. We are looked down upon, and we are still, in a way, considered in a huge, damaging way an abomination. And I never, still to for the life of me, I never understood why. Um, of course, I share the same attitudes as other people. Who, what does what I do with who have to do with you? Why are you in my bedroom? Why are you in my underwear? Why are you in my sheets? Why, with this cherry picking of certain verses to fit a certain narrative that is contrary to the reality of being bisexual, homosexual, a lesbian, queer, non-binary, um, the whole thing. I just never quite understood. And often in the community we turn on each other too. Again, crabs in the barrel. I'm not going to go into too much detail. That's probably going to be in a later episode. But I know my experience, actually, in the most recent experience I had sometime last year, is that people that I thought were on the same mission as me, um, are in the same community as me, uh, ultimately decided to turn their backs on me and just act like I don't exist. Um, and it's like all this considerable amount of time that we've been close and we've gotten to know each other. You've been to my house, I've been to your house, we've broken bread, we've had food together, I've sat in your vehicle, and I've gotten vulnerable with you, which I'm recently, and I want to say recently, probably the past 6 or 7 years, I've gotten in touch with my vulnerable side and become more transparent and more honest. And that's another thing. It's like everybody wants honesty and keeping it real and be down about yourself, be true to yourself, have some pride, be confident in who you are. And the moment you do that and you stick to it and you're pretty consistent with it, it's a problem. It's, oh well, he's just gone too far. We must control and police him. We must banish him and throw him out and just do whatever. And it's interesting because it's like the moment people have a fire under their ass and their feet are to the burning coals, the the attitude and the behavior changes. And it led me to believe, well, would the energy be the same if I were not black like this and I'm rubbing the back of my hand, but black like this and I'm rubbing the inside of my hand? Would the energy be different? Or would it be, I know it would definitely be, the energy would definitely be different or more embracing and more inclusive if my race were a different color. Um, People think they're pretty slick, and in these times, a lot of people are trying to appear um, less prejudiced. But let's keep it real. Um, the more you try to cover up who you really are, down in your bone marrow, down in your DNA, down into the very pit of your spirit and soul, the more you'll slip up. And then people like me who pick up on every subtext imaginable while others are just, you know, twerking and gyrating on each other and having a good time or living in their predisposed suburban bubble of naivete and um, tolerance and a dumbing down of any logic and common sense. There I am in the background, up against the wall, looking at everything that's happening and taking mental notes and realizing that we are just as divisive in our respective communities than the world as a whole. And people are not, should be more aware and more conscious of that, especially in these critical, damaging, sensitive times um, where people are being killed for being who they are. Religiously, socially, racially, and a lot of this stuff is being swept under the rug. A lot of people are losing their lives. A lot of people are having their lives affected. People are being separated. People are being divided. People are not being embraced as much as they should be. People are not being included as much as they should be. In this life, what people must remember is that in this life, it's not a competition because the end game is the same. It never changes. We are all taking a slow walk to the final chapter. And what people must understand is that what you say and how you behave and how you act towards another person that you deem is either a threat or competition or someone that looks differently than you do, and you feel the need to look down on them, you have got to weigh every variable from the outcome to what the effect has on their life. Um, Everybody out here has challenges and trials and tribulations, and you are not exempt. You are not free from karma. You are not free from retribution. You are not free from any responsibility. So it is very important that we each help each other. I am not a preacher or a minister by any means, but it is very important as a society for us to nurture each other, to be social and open and get out of our feelings and embrace one another. Because believe it or not, if you act on the contrary, you behave or you have an attitude of the contrary, you are damaging yourself, you're alienating yourself, and you're isolating yourself. Because let me tell you, there is only one casket for each of us. It is not a bunk bed in there. It is not a tent in there. It does not seat 8 of your friends from your clique. It does not seat 6 people of your favorites, your close friends, people you kiki with. The same 6 people that look like you, that you eat with, that you dine with, that you go to the club with, that you have sex with, that you fuck. The casket only seats one person, and that is you. And every word, every attitude, every behavior has a consequence, and not everybody's going to receive it very well. And like I say, what goes around comes around, and none of us are exempt. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know this is very cathartic and very therapeutic for me. Um, Again, I want to expound on the previous episode that this podcast, we will be covering a wide range of topics, some that are very close to me, um, others that just happen to come up. This whole crabs and apparel thing is one of those um, things that I've always noticed as a reoccurring theme in my professional life ever since I turned 18. My very first job, it wasn't like that at all. Um, the manager, Brian, doted on us, was very much a part of the work, and didn't have an air about him. Um, that's very rare in leadership. That's very rare when the dynamic or the hierarchy is of more like a pyramid almost, where we all report to one person, or we look to one person to guide us and to direct us. Um, Not everybody that's in leadership is fit to be there. Um, Not everybody that is in the positions that they are professionally are fit to be there. Um, I've certainly had my share of ineffectual, ineffective leaders. Um, I wouldn't say that I'm an absolutely lost cause, but I would say that I have some growing and some developing to do, and it's up to me to make sure that it happens. And there have been times when the leadership that I've been under, in my past previous chapters, so to speak, that were just only interested in themselves. Um, they come in, they do their 8 or 9 hours, their obligation to their executive status. They don't look into cross training opportunities. They want to lowball um, your potential. They want to lowball your your scale, your range, even given the reality that hey, you are going for higher education. You are committed to both that higher education and all that that entails, plus what you bring to the table and to the office professionally. Um, Again, I never understood why it's a crabs in the barrel mentality, and I had never seen an example where that 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 thing was successful. Um, I remember when I was temping many years ago. I was temping for about 3 or 4 years, and one of the last positions that I remember, we were all working a temporary to permanent job, and it was somewhere in Northeast Baltimore County, and we all came from different backgrounds. We were just happy to be there. We were all in the same playing field, and we were there to learn about this job, and everything that it entails. The 2 week, 2 3 week training was fully paid. I mean, when you are working a temp job, that attempt to permanent position, paid training, that was the cream of the crop opportunity, and that was very hard to come by. Um, there, I ended up staying um, with the 2 week training, 2 or 3 week training, and then making it onto the floor. Of course, there were blocks in the training, and you had to study prior to each block and take like a little quiz or exam at the end of each block, because the company wanted to make sure that they had the best of the best. I love learning, I love education, what have you. Um, as we're going through the paid training, I remember there were two girls on the back row with me, but they were further. They were probably 2 or 3 chairs down from me, and they sat next to each other. The first girl was, was cute, kind of like this girl from high school that I went to. She would have her little sassy moments in training, and then the other girl was kind of quiet. And I thought, since they sat next to each other, they were tight. Oh, maybe they were, from around the way. They got this, they came from the same agency and they were homegirls or whatever. Um, so we went through the training. There was one incident that was just very weird. I don't know where I was at the time, but it was just very weird from the instructor. But anyway, we all made it through the training for the most part, and we were all out on the floor. But by this time, we had different shifts. I was day shift, which was essentially like a 7:30 to 4:30 or something, and I think they came in um, towards later in the morning, whatever. Anyway, I ended up not staying with the position very long because I got a really good stable gig, and left him temping entirely. But I heard not too like probably a week after I left that those two girls got into a fist fight on the floor in an open floor in front of everybody. Um, I still to this day, and it's been almost 15 years, still to this day, I don't know if it what it was about. Was it over a dude? I know I'm petty. The way my mind works sometimes. Was it over a dude, or was it over like an opportunity at the job? Um, did one step on the shoe of the other? Did one let the door slam coming in on the other person? I don't know, but like something there had to be some kind of a catalyst or some tipping point from the time we were in training to the time the fight happened. Um, and this was a fight that was on public display in front of other employees, in front of leadership, people that make a difference, that could send your career into a different direction. And you have two women openly fighting, like punches thrown, like knocking each other over, pulling on the hair. I know, like with girls, they always pull the hair for whatever reason. Um, and of course, they both got fired. Of course, their assignments were ended. And it's like you have this golden opportunity to really go somewhere with a Fortune 500 company that's international. Um, you really fighting on work time, on the clock, in front of everybody. Most of the people that probably came from our class, um, the instructors, I'm sure, um, and you are out here blowing your opportunity. And I'm like, why are you guys turning on each other? What could that have been about? You really are lousing up your opportunities. And then on top of that, that company, well, I know predominantly that company was of white people, right? You are doing so many damaging things, and you're putting out so many damaging things to people, to white people about us. Um, and it made me wonder. I'm like, is when people look at me, or when people look at women that look like me, um, they think of, oh, do they think of angry black woman, angry black man? They just automatically take to that stereotype when you're passionate, when you stand in your conviction and you stand in your principles. And do they go with that? And like so many questions go through my head when I hear about things like that and when I experience stuff. Like, what do people really that don't look like me think of people that look like me. And why and do they take that stereotype and that attitude to another level and take it and place this unwarranted reputation marker, so to speak, on people of color, um, and go, just decide to like limit their opportunities. Um, they just totally, for whatever reason, forget that the person's there. Like from something small, like the leadership just knows a bunch of people, and from time to time, these people would come into the office and they meet at the doorway, and you're standing right there, and they're socializing and stuff, and not once does a greeting come your way. You are not introduced to this other party. And you start to think, well, what does my contribution matter? Does what I bring to the table even make a difference? I know in my second job, my first major career, because the one in high school didn't really matter. That was make some a little change, some coins on the for the off time or whatever. I remember like I was in a supporting office role for a major flight of people. Three buildings, roughly 50 to 75 people that offer many different services to a greater audience. Um, Now, one thing I do know is that when the office or the environment is predominantly of a different career field than the one that you're in, um, the attitude is different. Um, People don't see you as equitable or on their level or a comrade or somebody of considerable merit towards the bigger um, overarching um, picture. So there was definitely over some time in this particular office or this particular environment where people were kind of talking to me kind of crazy. People that I was sent there to help, to support, to make sure that their systems were running so they can do their jobs. Um, and it's very interesting. I was getting it from both ends where people that weren't that much higher up than I was, we were pretty much all in the same at the bottom of the totem pole in compared to the bigger picture. Um, I just would say or speak in a tone that was very, very, very nasty without context or provocation. Um, and it's hard, when you are a person of color or when you are just a person that believes in yourself, navigating this environment. Um, at some point, it starts to wear on you. You start to like look at yourself differently. Like, am I actually worth it? Am I actually making a difference? And the other people, the other parties involved are just they. Some people just don't pick up on that. Some people, even though for me, like I have a very expressive face, it's hard for me to hide what I feel. It's very hard for me to disguise, and that's been a blessing and a curse, so to speak. So in my lifetime, in my past, um, you can clearly see, especially when I was in my 20s, you can clearly see on my face, I am not happy. I am not fulfilled. I don't feel valuable. Um, and it was very weird because at that particular time, I was not close to home. I was like at least 2,500 miles away in an unknown land around a bunch of people that were not family, that I just met there. Um, and it was not easy. Like, I had to find a way to shift from being dependent on family, more or less, to actually depending on myself and essentially just being the baby bird leaving the nest. Um, in this strange land, in this strange world, where I was just one against many, um, who didn't know what to make of me. Um, I mean, I really could give a shit. I still don't. Um, and it was very interesting. I just never understand why there's such a bridge. There's always a bridge between those of affluence and those that are coming up. As if you don't put your pants on one leg at a time, as if you have literally the same kind of stuff that I do. You have a car, you have a place to live, you have your health. You are doing very well for yourself, and I'm to respect you regardless. It's very interesting in these working environments. Like, I had to learn pretty early on that just because I respect you doesn't mean I have to like you. And just because we are in, we kind of work together, or we work together, what have you, doesn't give you propriety or some kind of, um, like punch into my life. You have some people out there that, you know, this job or this career is their life. They eat, shit, and breathe this stuff, this line of work, and that becomes their identity. And for those that are on the outside looking in, it's like, who are you when you're not? Like, who are you? Never seen you crack a joke. Never seen you like relax and put your feet up and socialize with people in between, you know, going to the copier or something like that. Um, People just get so caught up into this thing, this work, and this, oh, it's kind of annoying as shit. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, it was annoying as shit. I was like 20 something years old, and this guy just was just very creepy. But he was one of many that were gun ho. They 25-8 about this. Um, you are on call. You are on duty. This is supposed to be your life. And I'm like, sir, 8 to 5 over here, and that's all y'all gonna get. Like, it wasn't even to the point where things were crazy. Like, oh yeah, it could instantly turn over in a minute. We are the last people that are even pulled into the crazy shit, the kind of crazy shit that y'all see now. Um, we are the last group of people to be called. So why are you so hype? But it's like people are so hype, and people are just wound so tight, like as if they're not just another body, and they take on this attitude, and they take on this thing like, oh, I'm important, oh, I'm making a difference. Slow your roll. There are 10,000 other people just in a similar position all throughout the building where you work. There are people on the street that have the same qualifications, and they're probably making a bigger difference in their careers. But the difference between them and you is that they are humble. They don't view other people as a threat, especially those that are their subordinates. There is no need to be competitive. There is no need for all this energy and all this, oh, well, we got to put you in line. And, oh, you acting out. No, I'm doing my job. But that's cute. That's cute. Doing my little 8 to 5, getting my couple of coins since, taxes is just digging so much over the years. It's not that serious. I'm going to come in, log in, do my little something, something, eat my little lunch at 11:30, 12 o'clock, and key with some of the people that I feel with just for a break, people that I know, and keep it pushing. Um, the amount of what people put into their jobs and having this energy and this attitude that is just so detrimental. It is not making your pockets fatter. It is not making your house bigger. It is not making your car run faster. It is not putting that much more equity into your house or into your bank account. It is not giving you any sort of leverage in the long grand scheme of things. So why are you pressed? Why are you why are you bringing that around? Why all this negative energy? Why are you keen on pulling other people down when you really should be pushing people out? Um, because at the end of the day, the higher ups can replace you just as easy as they can replace anybody else, and they will keep it pushing. You are just a body in a chair, and there will be 5 more people coming through the door that are just as qualified, just as manageable, just as good, just as skilled, just as disciplined, just as approachable and um, mentoring and giving as you are. So, what's the big idea? You're just one of many crabs in a barrel. This is Mr. Fox. This has been a great episode. Remember to subscribe to my channel. That way you're up to date and you have all this glorious content to make you question, to make you think, to make you feel, to hopefully inspire you to be a greater entity in life, to be someone that people can appreciate, people can support, people can make way for. Um, I did not make it to this point alone. It definitely took a village to keep this hot mess together. And I'm appreciative of every single person in my village, and they know who they are. And I'm sure you have a village around you that loves on you and appreciates you and supports you like none other. Always remember never to take them for granted and to always keep them close, because it is a wild jungle out there, and you are going to need somebody to lean on just to vent. You're going to need somebody to just have a nice little drink somewhere and just lament and reminisce and reinforce all the positives that have been bestowed upon you and you've bestowed upon others just by being you. I myself, I cannot be more blessed and honored to have this opportunity to speak with you. Hopefully, I have given some light on this thing, this one of many quandaries in society. I know that I often have questions, and I still have questions. I just wonder. And the moment I have a question, or the moment I have a thought, or an emotion, or something I'm passionate about, just know that you all are the first people that I want to tell, that I want to share this with. Um, we will definitely have more conversations, and there will definitely be more content coming down the pipe for you. Um, I plan to keep this educational, informative, fun. There will definitely be more of that and then some for you to listen. I hope you enjoy. I know I'm having a blast. I'm finally getting into my groove a little bit. Um, and I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for listening. Like I say, this has been Mr. Fox. This is I Refuse podcast. This is season 1, episode 2, Crabs in a Barrel. Remember to subscribe, comment, enjoy, tell all your family and friends about this up and coming podcast. This is my baby. This is what I love. This is, I think, my purpose, and I appreciate all the love. Thank you, and have a good night.